Hello, friends. Welcome. Welcome, KJ, Mason, Luke. Welcome. As always, we'll give it a couple minutes. We'll wait for people to shuffle in. Jose, welcome. As usual, when we get started in a couple minutes, we're going to get started with the Magga chanting book. Tonight's page 245. We're going to do a bit longer chanting for tonight. Hello, Sindhu. Hello, Diane. Welcome. Welcome, Steve. We're still waiting for people to shuffle in. All right. I think we can get started. So as I posted, we are in the Magga chanting book, page 245, Marananusati. This is a longer chant. This is haven't done this long of a chant in quite a while for Dhammapalooza, but it's a good chant. Marana death, nusati, contemplation. So this is the chant, like at Bhavana Society, when the rare times that somebody died and we chanted for them, which is something that Bhanteji and Bhavana Society doesn't really do. Very rarely does that happen, but it's very common in the Buddhist world. And so this is what we would chant at at somebody's ceremony, these kind of things. So all right. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Pavatadi patulyaya sayu santarikaya yang parupamaya sampassang bhavaye maranisating mahasampatti sampatta yatta satta matayeda tatta ahang marisami maranang mammahesati uppattiya sahevadang maranang agatta saddha maranattaya okasang vaddako via esati Isakang antivatang tang tatang tang gamanusita usikang jivatang uddaya atta suryo via dhavati vidyu bubbula usava jalaraji parikayang gatakova riputassa sabbata piyavario Suyasatit amma punyiddi buddhi buddhi jina divayang gatesi maranang kipang katu madisake kata pachayanang chavekalya bahira jatu paddava maramorang nimesi pi maramano anukananti Animetang anyatang machanang idhajivatang kasirancha paritancha tancha dukkena samyutang nahi so upakamo attiyena jata namiyayare jayang pipatva maranang evang dhammahi panino Palanang eva pakkanang patto pappatana bayang evang jatana machanang nichang maranato bayang yatapi kumbara kassa kata mattika bhajana sabbe bedana pariyanta evang machana jivatang daraha cha mahatta cha ye bala ye cha pandita Sabbe machu vasangyanti, sabbe machu parayana, anichang vata sankara, upada vayadhamino, upajitva nirujjanti, te sangvupa sumosuko, achirang vatayang kayo, pataving adisesati, chuddo apeta vinyano, nirattanang vakalingarang, Anabhito tato aga nanyuntato ito gato yatatago tatagato tatake paridevana Yatapi sela vipula nabha adhacha pabbata samanta anupariyeyung nipotena chatuddisa evang jaracha machucha adhivattanti panino Kattiye brahmane vese suddhe chandala pukuse nakinchi parivajjenti sabbang eva bhindammati natattahattinang bhumi narattanang napattiya nakchappi manta yuddena sakkajetung danena va Tasmahi bandito poso sampassang attang buddhe dhamme cha sanghe cha dhiro sadhana nivesaye yo buddha charikayena vacha uddha cetasa idheva nang pasam santi pecha sagge pamodati. All right, now the English. Meditation on death. Like a flame blown out by the wind, this life continuum goes to destruction. Recognizing one's similarity to others, one should develop mindfulness of death. Just as people who have achieved great success in the world have died, so too I must certainly die. Death is harassing me. Death always comes along together with birth, searching for an opportunity like a murderer out to kill. Not the least bit stoppable, always going forward. Life rushes towards its end, like the rising sun to its setting. Like lightning, a bubble, dewdrops, or a line drawn in the water, life cannot last. Death is like a murderer after his foe, completely unrestrainable. Death slays those great in glory, in strength, merit, powers, and wisdom, and even the two kinds of conquerors. No need to speak about one like me. Due to a lack of necessities of life, to some inner or outer misfortune, I who am dying moment after moment can die in the blink of an eye. The life of mortals is signless. Its length cannot be known in advance. It is difficult and limited and tied up with suffering. There is no possibility that mortals shall not die. Having reached old age, they die. Such is the nature of living beings. As fruit when ripe has to fall, so all beings live constantly with the fear that they will die. As a potter's earthen jars eventually must all break up, so too does the life of mortals eventually come to an end. The young and the old, the foolish and the wise, all move in the grip of death. All finally end in death. Impermanent are all conditioned things, affected by rising and falling away. Having arisen, they then must cease. Blissful is it when they subside. Before long, this body will lie cast away upon the ground, bereft of all consciousness, like a useless block of wood. Uninvited he came here. Without leave he departed. He went just as he came, so why lament? Like gigantic boulders, mountains reaching to the sky, moving in from all sides, crushing all in the four directions. So aging and death come, rolling over living beings, noble warriors, priests, merchants, workers, outcasts, and scavengers. They spare nothing. They crush everything. Here elephants can hold no ground, nor can chariots or infantry. One can't defeat them by a battle of spells, or buy them off by means of wealth. So a wise person, seeing his own good, secures firm conviction in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. He who practices the Dhamma in thought, word, and deed receives praise here on earth, and after death rejoices in heaven. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends, who has joined us here? Douse, welcome Douse, welcome Lakeisha, welcome Elaine and Adriana. Okay, friends, so welcome to yet another Dhammapalooza. We keep chugging along here as long as we are here alive in this existence at this time. We come to Dhammapalooza every Monday to have our 2-hour Festival of Dhamma. And this Festival of Dhamma includes all kinds of Dhamma-related activities. We just did some chanting, and we're going to do some guided meditation later. We're going to do some guided meditation on the 5 subjects to contemplate often, I think, since we have a theme going here. And in between, that's going to be up to you guys. So as some of you know, but maybe there's some new people here, this is a community event. This is not just everybody come and listen to Bhante J talk for 2 hours. That's not how it works. This is a Magga Seka community event. This is the one time a week we all come together to have fun with our Festival of Dhamma. So that being said, you can talk to each other in the chat. You can discuss. Even if I'm talking, if you're talking, that's fine. If you're discussing with each other, no problem. If you're conversing, that's not interrupting me. That's not bothering me. I encourage you guys to get to know each other, to say hello to each other. You see, when people come in, they'll say good evening, Bhante and friends and things like that. You know, when we do morning monastery experience, everybody's, who's there says good morning to each other. That's a good thing, right? To build community, to get to know each other. So please do that in the chat. No problems. Get to know each other. say hello to each other, talk to each other, no problems. That being said, so what I usually do at this point is I like to have you guys have a say in how this is going to go. So for the next couple of minutes, I leave in the chat. I leave open if you have any Dhamma topics you'd like me to discuss or the community to discuss. If you have any questions you'd like me to take a stab at answering, right? Or if you need any clarification on one thing, you can all put that in the chat. So if you have any questions or topics or clarifications, please put it in the chat and we'll give it another minute or two, maybe 2-3 minutes to see if anything comes up in the chat. And if not, then we can read some suttas. We have a good amount of people here, probably people that are joining us for the first time or new, so welcome. Douse is waiting to be entertained by some fun questions. So all of you. Okay. So Bhavani Chandrasekhar has a question. I hope I said that right. Oh, Elaine, you just ask your question. No need to ask. No need to ask permission to ask a question. Just ask. No problem. I feel that if I have more money, this is Bhavani saying, I can live longer and die with less pain. Please help me to understand this correctly. Well, you might feel this way, but that's not necessarily how it will go, right? Just because you have more money doesn't mean that you won't, will die in less pain. As a matter of fact, if you have more money, you might even have more chances of dying in worse ways, right? People might want to kidnap you and do all kinds of things to you to get your money, right? Most of the time, people wouldn't bother with a poor person because they don't have anything to take from them. So that's so just because you have more money doesn't mean that you're free from suffering or you have less suffering, right? You have lots of money, then you can have different kinds of suffering, right? So there's even these studies that have come out in the last couple of years regarding happiness, like regarding happiness in relation to money. And you can see like the study shows that like having more money increases happiness. Like if you're really poor, having more money increases your happiness. And if you're about middle ground and a little bit high, it increases happiness. But after that, it doesn't. So like basically, once you have an exorbitant amount of money beyond really what you need, your happiness is not increased, right? So this is something that is very important for us to understand, right? Those of us who have kind of been raised with this idea of I need more money equals more safety or more security, you question that thought. Is that real? Is that really true? Is it really true? I don't know. I'd be not so inclined to believe so, but Ajahn Brahm said it best in a talk years ago. He said there's poor people dukkha and there's rich people dukkha. Right? There's American dukkha and there's Indian dukkha. no matter what place you are, no matter what position, no matter where you are, there's suffering related to just simply being in this existence. There is suffering. There is dukkha. Elaine has retracted her question, or something. Something has been retracted. Let's see, Jose. There's a story related to the verse in the Dhammapada where the Buddha teaches to the weaver's daughter. I tried to meditate with it, but I'm not constantly doing this. This chanting reminded me of that. I don't know if I know that off the top of my head. I guess it's a commentarial story. That's probably why I'm not very familiar with it. Adriana says, yes, visiting wealthy nursing homes really made me realize how we all end up in very similar places. The Buddha teaches mindfulness of death to the weaver's daughter. All right. Jose says, our last days depend on our karma, I guess. Yes and no. Well, I mean, yes, basically. But we, everything is led along by causes and conditions. So how you live your life, the choices you make every day, create the karma of how you will be at the end of your life. Right? So like if you want to have a good death, then you practice being skillful now. Right? There's this mistaken thought that is a later Abhidhamma commentarial thing. You don't see this in the suttas, but this view like, oh my God, I have to make sure that the last second of my death, I'll have this exact thought in my mind, or else I'll go to hell, which is BS. It's beyond BS. And especially if you've been around people who die, like if you've seen actual death, you're less likely to believe this BS. Right? Because when you're dying, there's no like, oh, I'm going to make sure I know I'm going to make sure my last thought will be this. Doesn't exist. That's not how it works. It just isn't. So if you want your last thoughts to be skillful, peaceful, filled with metta, right? Then you have to practice throughout your life this skillfulness. Practice goodness, right? And then when you come to your deathbed, there will be nothing to regret. There'll be no worries. You can go peacefully, which is another thing people have trouble with, going peacefully, especially if the family members don't really want them to go. So they hang on. Elaine says, a med doc has made a number of mistakes with I guess me. He did it again today. I just went along with it to avoid open conflict, but felt I was kind of lying by doing so. Your thoughts? If you don't trust your doctor and you don't like what your doctor is doing, you have to speak up to your doctor. And if your doctor doesn't really meet your needs, doesn't really meet you halfway, then probably the best thing is to get another doctor. I mean, it's with things like this, it's just not good. Like, I mean, I'll give you an example of years back when I started doing therapy. My first therapist was basically useless. I mean, he was a low-rate therapist. He diagnosed me with a certain kind of depression. He tried to put me on medications. The medications was useless, didn't do anything. And then I found a much better therapist who I ended up going to for 4 years, who's like one of my best friends in the world. And like within a month, he's like, you don't have this. You're not diagnosed this. That's a bunch of BS. You don't need any medications. And I was like, oh, interesting. Right. So it's like, fine, don't let people who are the quote unquote experts related to your health. You go to any like medical place, they'll see signs that'll say like, you have to take charge for your health and make, you are the author of your decisions and things like that. You have to, be able to say, hey, listen, I don't think you're doing this right, doc. right? This is how I feel. And maybe the doctor's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then I'll explain it to you and maybe we'll discuss it, right? Or maybe they just like, what do you know? Right? And then you say, well, maybe it's time to look for another doctor. I mean, this is it. You have to be your own advocate. I remember seeing that in hospitals a lot over the years, being your own advocate, right? Is the feed gone for everybody, or was that just Elaine? Is the feed still here? Because it looks to me like everything is going well. Okay. All right. See, this is the thing about this is the one of the misconceptions about Buddhism. It's like, like being peaceful and kind means just like, yeah, I'll just let whatever happen and it's okay and such and such. And there is that is part of it, right? There are times where you just kind of be like, well, I'm just going to let this roll. I'm just going to let the dice roll, right? What did Julius Caesar say when he crossed the Rubicon? I was trying to remember the Latin, but the dice is cast, right? It's like, so whatever happens is going to happen, right? So there's times where you have to be like that. And there's times where you're like, no, I need to make a stand here. I need to say something. I need to stick up for myself, right? So there's a balance there. You can't just be like a total whooshy kind of, I'm just going to let everything happen, because you're giving your agency to everybody. Right? Again, you're giving away your agency. You're giving away your karma. Right? You're giving it all away. You're just like, well, I'm just going to let whatever happens. Not necessarily a good thing. Again, a balance, because sometimes we try to control and try to force too much, and we have to let go. We have to trust in karma, as Ajahn Brahm told me those years ago, right? To let go and trust in karma. Sometimes you have to do that, and sometimes you have to take action. The problem is you have to have the wisdom to know when is when, right? Like that Catholic proverb, serenity prayer, something like that. Help me to know what I can change and what I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference, something like that. That's basically that's 100% accurate. That's a 100% accurate reality. Right? There's things that I need to work to attend to, and there's things that I can only let go of, and I need to have the wisdom to know the difference, for sure. All medical doctors should be trained in Buddhism to have proper mind to treat suffering patients. Yeah, that's wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm kind of connected with this gentleman who is creating this organization, this research and education organization, whose job it is to teach contemplative leadership, like kind of like teaching leaders Buddhist mindfulness, techniques and kind of like ways of living so that they can be a skillful leader. And I thought that is an awesome idea. And he asked me to be a part of that. And I said, yes, I definitely do that. Right. Because anybody who is in a kind of that authority position, whether they are a doctor or a CEO or a politician or whatever, a community organizer, whatever, leadership is an important skill. And 99.9% of people who are in leadership positions know nothing about being a leader Absolutely nothing. I saw that in my career when like almost all the supervisors that I met were just horrible at being supervisors. They have no idea how to lead people, how to manage people, how to encourage people, how to act skillfully. They just don't know, right? Nobody taught them. What are you going to do? And so like, it's like, hey, Bhante, do you want to be a part of this? Yes. Yeah. Because leaders can cause lots of suffering. So why don't we get the chance to train some leaders in some skillful action, right? So that they can be skillful with other people. All right, let's see. Adriana says, that was me. Bhante, you're why I learned that being Buddhist doesn't mean you have to let people walk all over you. Yeah, exactly. I had to learn that lesson myself. I really did. I really did. Tessa Danube says that the serenity prayer is an AA thing as well. Yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah. It seems like the chat just kind of stopped. I don't know. Looks like everything is fine on my end. So maybe people just don't want to chat. And we can read a sutta. Majjhima Nikaya number 33. The longer discourse on the Cowherd. Where are we at here? So we're a little bit past 8:30. All of a sudden, questions appear. No. Isn't that how it always goes? Douse has a question. I think Douse had one in his holster waiting for me to say it's time to read a sutta. And then he shoots it out. All right, let's have a question. All right. I found a lot of nice insights due to contemplating some concepts. And I am wondering if something like that is mentioned in the Buddhist teachings. It's basically concepts of true, false, real, unreal, honest, dishonest, genuine, and ingenuine. I suppose it could be tied to emptiness, but I like these concepts. I mean, part of that would be covered with sila nusati, reflecting on your good deeds. Part of that would be covered, like the true false. Part of that would be covered from a right speech, right? There is a one of the most important things that I love that is really true is about not lying to yourself, right? And you do see this in the suttas. The Buddha doesn't necessarily, I don't think, say this straight off, but you do see that the Buddha, like there's one sutta where the Buddha says, even if you were to go into the wilderness and do a bad deed and nobody else was around, somebody would know you, right? So the Buddha says, like, you can't even hide from yourself, right? And even a clinical psychologist that I like said something once. He says, in my 20 years of working with people, I never saw anybody get away with anything ever. And some people would be like, oh, what do you mean there's stupid people get away from crimes, blah, blah, blah. These people who say this, they don't get it. I saw the same thing, right? Like I saw, people who, like my clients, right? Working with Child Protective Services, working with my clients, causes and conditions, man. Karma. I saw it too. You might get away with something, like you might get away with like 3 or 4 little crimes, right? And then later on, you get busted and maybe you didn't actually do anything wrong that time, but you go to jail. And like I've talked to prisoners, like, like people have actually believed this. She's like, I got away with so many things. This was God or karma or whatever. This was them saying, you're done now, right? Like people, have this feeling of like, I thought I got away with all these things, but I didn't. Right? So that's important. Like that's why it's never, ever good to lie to yourself, to accept lies to yourself. When you're lying. If you're really paying attention, when you're lying to yourself. Right? And in my opinion, it's way worse to lie to yourself than lying to people outside. Why? Because if you're lying to yourself, you're killing your wisdom. You're killing your morality, and you will lie to more people, right? If you don't lie to yourself and you respect yourself in that way, you won't lie to others because you respect others, right? Don't lie to yourself. Don't accept lies, right? See when Mara is giving you some kind of BS line, right? Something will come up in your mind. It'll be like, well, such and such and such. And if you thought about it, normally you wouldn't think about it. You're like, yeah, exactly. But if you thought about it, it was like, oh, wait a second. I'm calling out this BS. This is not true. This is a lie. Right? So I encourage you all from this day forward, you make an aspiration. From this day forward, I will not lie to myself, nor will I accept lies that arise in my mind. If a lie arises in my mind, I will cut it out right there. I will say, I do not accept it. I see you, Mara. Right? You tell it. You say, no, I see that lie, and I'm not going to be a party to it anymore. Right? Don't allow lie. The Buddha says there is one thing that if done, a person is expected to be able to do anything else. That is to tell a deliberate lie. Right? And if you lie to yourself, you don't know what the truth is. If you just totally abide and immerse yourself in lies, you lose track of the truth. You cannot live in the truth at that point. You cannot live a skillful, mindful, wise, beneficial life. You just can't. Because you're just mired in lies. You're mired in deceit. You're mired in untruth. This is not the way to live. So from here on in, do not lie. Oh, we have a friend from the Philippines. I think that's a first. Somebody from the Philippines. Welcome, my friend. Good morning. And then Gray, our friend from down under, New Zealand. All right. Bhavani says, I would like to die on my own without troubling others. Well, that's good because you are going to die on your own. Even if you have all your family and friends, even if you have children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and everybody else around you, you're still dying on your own. Death is a solitary endeavor. Nobody does it for you. It's just you. That's it. So no matter who's around you, you're going to die on your own. But you can't control how people are going to feel about your death. Right? You can't control that. Literally. You can't force people to, you shouldn't feel bad when I die, or don't be around me so that people don't feel, so that you don't feel bad. No, that's not how this thing works. If people love you, if people want to be around you, right? Even if they're not there, they could be across the country. Your death is still going to cause them suffering. That's it. That's just normal, right? And you can't stop that because it's not your suffering, right? It's not your karma. It's not your job. You're dead. You're moving on to your next life. It's their job. It's their karma. It's their attachment, their suffering that they will have to deal with. So if you don't want somebody to suffer, teach them Dhamma, right? Raise them well. Teach them Dhamma. Teach them goodness. Show them how to live well. Show them how to be well. And they will be. And you can die at peace knowing that you did your best, right? That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. To our friend who is in a Catholic country, it's difficult to meet a Buddhist monk here. It's difficult to meet a Buddhist monk in America too, unless you're close to a city anyway. But that's why we have online, right? I was the only Buddhist I knew in my daily life until I moved to the monastery to become a Buddhist, to become a monk, right? Most of my learning, most of my teaching, most of my Dhamma friends were all online. That's how it goes. And so I carry on the grand tradition started by monks like Bhante Yuttadhammo and Ajahn Brahm's crew of being online with and for the people all over the world. We have friends from all over the world, part of the Maggaseka community. Every continent in the world except for Antarctica. One of these days, we might have a scientist from Antarctica join Dhammapalooza. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised. It might happen one day. Or it might even be me. I might go to Antarctica. I would do it. See. Well, Adriana, Dhamma Talks in Antarctica could at least basically be live. If I go to Mars, they can't be live anymore. All right. There's a question here. Adriana says, could you give examples of common lies one tells oneself, like justifying a lie or overindulgence? An example. It's so interesting because there's a 1,000 little lies that go through your mind every day. Trying to think of one that comes to mind right now. I mean, one that comes to mind is like a certain kind of like lie, like your mind telling you, oh, you're not this kind of person. You're not that kind of person. Like how I used to like have this view that I wasn't an angry person, that I didn't really have anger in me because I never really kind of acted out my anger. Like I was never like an overly angry person. Right. My sisters used to call me Switzerland because when my Italian family would fight, I'd be the one like, let's calmly and rationally discuss this and yada, yada, yada. Right. And so because I was kind of like that person, I developed this thing where I was like, oh, I'm not an angry person. And then years later, my therapist, I'm talking to my therapist, the good one, and he goes, sarcasm is anger, right? And it clicked in my head. I'm like, I am like the most sarcastic person I know. And I realized, I have lots of anger in me. I just use it in a different way. Right? But before I thought I didn't have any anger. Yeah. You can think also like, your mind tells you something. Oh, you're stupid. Right? And you're like, yeah, I am stupid. No, you're not. Right? You listen to these things, right? Listen to these things that come to your mind and how quickly and easily we just agree with them without investigating them, without questioning them. Then you'll see all the lies. Well, Zen kicks iron. Once the pandemic ends and you are active in your local Sangha, I still hope that you come on with us. You're always welcome. Welcome to join and be a part of the Magaseka community. Mason. Oh, that's a perfect example. Trying to blame someone else for something that was really your fault. They did this to me. Right? That's a perfect example. Thank you. Mason to the rescue on that one. Yes, like Dao says, you made me angry. All right. Shall we read the sutta then? Longer discourse on the cowherd. So I have heard at one time the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. There the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Mendicants, venerable sir, they replied. The Buddha said this. Mendicants, a cowherd with 11 factors can't maintain and expand a herd of cattle. What 11? It's when a cowherd doesn't know form, is unskilled in characteristics, doesn't pick out flies' eggs, doesn't dress wounds, doesn't smoke out pests, doesn't know the ford, doesn't know satisfaction, doesn't know the trail, is not skilled in pastures, milks dry, and doesn't show extra respect to the bulls who are fathers and leaders of the herd. A cowherd with these 11 factors can't maintain and expand a herd of cattle. In the same way, a mendicant with these 11 qualities can achieve growth, improvement, or maturity in this Dhamma and discipline, the teaching and the training. What 11? It's when a mendicant doesn't know form, is unskilled in characteristics, doesn't pick out flies' eggs, doesn't dress wounds, doesn't smoke out pests, doesn't know the ford, doesn't know satisfaction, doesn't know the trail, is not skilled in pastures, milks dry, and doesn't show extra respect to the senior mendicants of long standing, long gone forth, fathers and leaders of the Sangha. I said, well, wait a second. How is the cowherd and the monastic the same 11 things? Well, now we will find out. Just another one of those suttas where the Buddha uses real life examples as a simile for us to understand. And how does a mendicant not know form? It's when a mendicant truly does not understand that all form is the four primary elements, or form derived from the four primary elements. What are the four primary elements? Earth element, fire element, water element, wind element. That's how a mendicant doesn't know form. And how is a mendicant not skilled in characteristics? It's when a mendicant doesn't understand that a fool is characterized by their deeds. An astute person is characterized by their deeds. That's how a mendicant isn't skilled in characteristics. And how does a mendicant not pick out flies' eggs? It's when a mendicant tolerates a sensual, malicious, or cruel thought that has arisen. They tolerate any bad, skillful qualities that have arisen. They don't give them up, get rid of them, eliminate, and obliterate them. Lies also can fit into that. That's how a mendicant doesn't pick out flies' eggs. And how does a mendicant not dress wounds? When a mendicant sees a sight with their eyes, they get caught up in the features and details. What does this mean? So, what this means is, say you see a person that you're attracted to. Ooh. And then you start looking, you're like, oh, their hair is such and such. Their eyes are such and such. There's the sound of their voice is such and such. That's the features and details, right? So if you were to just note, oh, I see a person and I notice the attraction, and then you just move on, then you're observing, but you're not grasping, you're not attaching. The tendrils are not coming out, and you're not propagating papancha. You're not propagating the desire in this, right? You can say, oh, you can replace the person with, ice cream or a food, right? Or some item, something like that, right? You can replace whatever. If you notice, when we like something, when we get attached to something, we get focused in on that. All these little things. Hello, Jessica. Welcome. Hope you're doing well, Jessica. It's just like when I was hot and dying in California and dehydrated after a long trip. And Jessica comes up to me and says, hello, Bhante. Would you like a drink? And I said, yes. And she got me a drink, and I looked at it and I was like, well, I kind of wanted this drink instead of that drink. And, I don't know if I like this one or no. I said, oh, thank you. And I drank it. Right? I did not care about the features and details. Now, it turns out she got me one of my good flavors. But still, right? It worked out good karma on my end. But anyway, so that's what this means here. Not getting caught up in all of the extra little details. Like when I tell you guys, when we do the guided meditation and I say to let go of whatever the distraction is, right? You don't want to push it away, nor do you want to get enraptured in it. Ooh, this is nice. Let me keep looking at it. Let me keep thinking about it. Let me keep papancha-ing it, propagating it, right? We don't want to do that. Well, Jessica, I'm glad that I was able to give you some selanucity and some laughter. This is very good. All right, so let's keep going on. Since the faculty of sight is left unrestrained, bad, unskillful qualities of desire and aversion become overwhelming. They don't practice restraint. They don't protect the faculty of sight, and they don't achieve its restraint. When they hear a sound with their ears, a smell and odor with their nose, taste a flavor with their tongue, feel a touch with their body, know a thought with their mind, they get caught up in the features and details. This is an interesting thing. There's the external and the internal. The internal is the eye. The external is the sight. The internal is the ear. The external is the sound. Now, keep this logic going. This should blow your mind. The internal is the mind. The external is the thought. The Buddha is saying that thoughts are external from the mind. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Very interesting. And I would say the deeper you go into your practice, you start to see that and understand that. You start to kind of see, well, wait a second, these thoughts that have arisen, I didn't ask them to. I don't know if they're mine. But that's an interesting thing to understand. Thoughts are external. Thoughts are to the mind like a form to the eye. Keep that in mind. Since the faculty of the mind is left unrestrained, bad, unskillful qualities of desire and aversion become overwhelming. They don't practice restraint. They don't protect the faculty of the mind, and they don't achieve its restraint. That's how a mendicant doesn't dress the wounds. And how does a mendicant not smoke out the pests? It's when a mendicant doesn't teach others the Dhamma in detail as they learned and memorized it. The punching story? Which punching story? The smoking out the pest should be a simile that anybody that has ever had to bomb their house because of fleas and things like that is familiar with. Well, I in the old days, 15, 20 years ago, I have experience with bombing houses because of animals bringing in fleas. Quite the experience. Smoke out the pests. Are you talking about the during the Metta retreat when I had the vision of punching out Bhante Silananda? Is that what you're talking about? So smoking out the pest is when you don't teach Dhamma in detail as they learned and memorized it. And how does a mendicant not know the ford? It's when a mendicant doesn't, from time to time, go up to those mendicants who are very learned, knowledgeable in scriptures, who have memorized the teaching, the monastic law, and the outlines, and ask them a question. Why, sir, does it say this? What does that mean? Those venerables don't clarify what is unclear, reveal what is obscure, and dispel doubt regarding many doubtful matters. It's very important to check in with those who you consider to be wise every once in a while. This way, so you know the ford. That's how a mendicant doesn't know the ford. And how does a mendicant not know satisfaction? It's when a mendicant, when the teaching and training proclaimed by the realized one are being taught, finds no inspiration in the meaning and the teaching, and finds no joy connected with the teaching. That's how a mendicant doesn't know satisfaction. Seriously, all you regular people don't know the story of why I wanted to punch out Bhante Silananda? Really? I mean, I can imagine if Mason didn't know or Max didn't know or somebody else, but you guys have known me for years. You probably know the story. You probably just forgot. All right. Of course, Adriana knows. Adriana is like the Ananda to my Buddha. How does it go? Adriana is my Ananda to Buddha or whatever. I don't know. But Adriana is like my Ananda. After I die, she will say, one time I heard Bhante said this. Adriananda. Yeah, exactly. Adriananda. All right. Douse probably doesn't know because Douse, I usually say it during retreats and stuff like that. So you probably haven't heard it. All right. Let me do one more and then I'll tell the story. So you don't know, a mendicant doesn't know satisfaction when they don't get any benefit from the Dhamma. Oh God, either the person teaching the Dhamma is really bad at it, or they're just so ignorant that they can't get any benefit from the Dhamma. That's sad. And how does a mendicant not know the trail? We know what the trail is, right? What do you think? You don't even have to read the next line to know what the trail is. It's when a mendicant doesn't truly understand Adyo Atangiko Muggo, the Noble Eightfold Path. Of course, it's the trail, the Adya Pariyesana. All right. That is how a mendicant doesn't know the trail. All right. Okay. So we'll stop off with pastures. So the story. Cookie trail. Well, I don't know. Sometimes cookies might help. Like that Kung Fu Panda, right? One of the best movies ever. One of the most Dhamma-filled movies ever. When Shifu realizes that the way to train the panda is through food. I mean, if somebody's like that, you might be able to use that to train them in the Noble Eightfold Path, at least to get them on the right path, so they don't need it anymore. So who knows? You might be able to use. I mean, if to get Cookie Monster to know Dhamma, you got to use cookies. It's just the way it is. So. So the story goes, I usually tell the story when I'm talking about not self, when I'm talking about anatta. Yeah, Adriana, exactly, like the Nymph Sutta. where all of the monks peer pressure the guy. Oh, he's doing the holy life for the nymphs. Oh, that's great. That's such a great sutta. Oh, I love it. Such and such monk is in the holy life for the 72 dove-footed nymphs. Ay, ay, ay. All right. So back to the story. So I'm at the Metta retreat. And at this point, I had been a Buddhist close to 4 years. And I'd been a meditator about 7. So I wasn't new to this. You know, it wasn't a wasn't a new thing. And no, there are no nymphs involved in my story, just in the sutta. And so I was at the Metta retreat with one of my favorite monks in all the world, Bhante Silananda. And so he was doing a guided meditation, and a little an unknown tip that most people don't know about me: I hate guided meditations. I just do not like them, mostly because 99.9% of people do guided meditations are horrible at it. They don't know what a guided meditation is. And I'm including some very well-known monks in that as well, not just Joe Schmo lay teacher. Guided meditations, most teachers, and including monks, are bad at guided meditations. It's just simple as that. But anyway, I don't like guided meditations. And interestingly enough, whose guided meditation there's one person's guided meditation that actually brings me to deep states of calm. Anybody guess? There's one monk whose guided meditation brings me to deep states of calm and peace. Any guesses in the chat? No, not Ayasu Dhamma. Adriana, I know you've heard this one before. Nope, not Bhante G. Nope, not Ajahn Brahm. I actually don't like Bhante G's guided meditations. They're a bit rambly. Not a big fan. No. It's kind of a trick question. It's me. When I do guided meditations, I actually have to stop myself from falling into deep states of concentration. For some reason, I don't know why. But like, I have to be like, wait a second. You're supposed to be guiding them. You can't go deep. You have to stay. Yep, it's me. But anyway, so that's a bit of an aside. So Bhante Silananda is doing the guided meditation, and it's a bit. He goes like, it's like this: May all beings be well, happy and peaceful. May all beings be well, happy and peaceful. And it's kind of like mantra-y, right? And meanwhile, I'm like blissing out. Like I'm like expanding I'm like blissing out all like metta to the universe. And I'm just like, boom, like power metta-ing out. And all of a sudden, the mantra, the tone, the chanting started just agitating me. And my mind is like, I'm trying to bliss out for all beings here. Why am I? This guided meditation is agitating me, right? And then all of a sudden, I have this vision. So I'm a very visual person. I don't think in words. I think in visions, right? I have an impulse. I have impulses in visions. My mind doesn't say you should do X. It shows me doing X, right? So a very clear vision comes to my mind of me getting up. Now, meanwhile, I'm in a meditation hall in the middle of a retreat with 40 other people all around me. Bhante's up at the front of the hall, doing this. And so the vision is I get up off my seat, I go up to Bhante, and I punch him in the face. Very clearly in my mind, I saw myself getting up and punching him in the face. What would be your thought if you had a thought? What would be your reaction if you had a thought like that arise to you in the middle of a metta retreat at a Buddhist monastery? Honestly, what would you think? What would your thought be? How would you react to that? Jose's like, that would be a normal day. Adriana is, I'd be horrified, probably shame myself. Yeah. I think most people would. Right? Most people would be like, oh my God, I'm such a horrible person that thought arose. You know what my reaction was? I had to stop myself from bursting out laughing in the middle of the meditation hall. When I saw that vision arise in my mind, my first thing was to laugh hard. I was literally like trying to hold it because I would have basically made this huge laugh that would have interrupted everybody trying to be blissed out in metta. And it was because by that point I had already started getting insights into understanding not self. I had already started to understand that thoughts and impulses are external, right? So I didn't automatically just assume. I didn't just automatically just accept it as mine. I didn't unquestioningly just go along with it. I thought, of course, I'm not going to get up and go and punch Bhante Silananda out. Right? Causes and conditions arose. Agitation arose. And the thought arose to go punch him out. That's not even the worst thought I've had. I've had visions of literally killing people. I've had visions of, you know how to end this person causing you suffering? Just kill him. Right? And if you're honest with yourself, you've had them too. It's just the way it is. Right? These thoughts arise. The problem is that we take them as mine, me, myself. And you go, oh my God, this is horrible. Right? This is also what like the whole Carl Jung and like the whole shadow work and like integrating your shadow and realizing that you're not a perfect, I am such a perfect, wonderful being. There's no shadow. I would never harm a fly. BS. BS. No way. It's there. You're just lying to yourself. Right? You're BSing yourself. That's not reality. Right? So yeah. So I had already known that image. And so this is why actually it took me to get, like in the last couple of years, it took more deep insight into causes and conditions, into paticca samuppada for me to kind of understand this difference. There's a difference between intention and impulse. So using this example of Bhante Silananda, what arose in my mind was an impulse, a vision, an image, an impulse. Punch him out. This is how we end our suffering. Punch him out. That's an impulse. My intention in that was, I'm not going to follow that. Right? If you are impulsive, your intention is just unskillfully follow your impulses. Whatever the impulse says, it's truth, I'm going to do it. But if you are mindful, if you're wise, if you're skillful, if you're a practitioner, if you know the path, if you're skillful of the path, then you realize this impulse arises, you say, no, no, right? Dvaita Vitaka Sutta, 2 kinds of thought. Right? The Buddha says, recognizes what is unskillful thought, what is skillful thought. Abandons unskillful thought. An impulse arises. You think, wait a second, let me think this through. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. If I follow that, it's just going to cause me and others suffering. So I'm not going to do it. Right? But what people do is they think their impulses and their thoughts are their intention. And that is because they have no idea. That is because they are not skillful meditators yet. They have not seen things as they are. Right? You can see this in the Buddhist, the monastic rules, the Vinaya. Right? When somebody will say, Bhante, in a dream, I killed somebody. In a dream, I had sex with somebody. Or a thought arose for me to kill somebody. Or a thought arose for me to have sex with somebody. And the Buddha will say, well, did you do it? And they're like, no, it was just a thought. It was just a dream. And the Buddha's like, well, thoughts and dreams are not an offense, right? Thoughts and dreams are not intention. Your intention is when these thoughts, when these impulses, when these things arise in your mind, how do you handle them? That is your intention. Anger has arisen in my mind. My intention is to not allow it to cause me to act unskillfully in words and deeds. Lust has arisen in my mind. My intention is to act skillfully in words and deeds. Okay? That's your intention. Intention is very clear in the early text, in the monastic rules. It's very clear. It's not some kind of nebulous, well, maybe like a little part of my mind way in the back had this intention. No. Were you very clearly and understand, were you very clearly saying and intending to do this action? Right? That's the difference. That's intention. Right? That's a very important distinction. It took me, like I said, I've been meditating 17 years. I only understood this distinction, 3 years ago? That's about it. It took me a long time to understand this. I had to see it in my mind. I had to see it in my experiences. I had to see it with my own insight. But now I understand. Right? The difference between intention and impulse. Big difference. All right. Well, we're not going to read the sutta. We're going to cancel the sutta because we are coming close to the time where we should meditate. But we're going to just, I'm going to check the chat and we're going to clear up all the comments and questions and stuff like that before we do the meditation. Adriana says causes and conditions rather than ownership. Well, no. The thing is, when you start to see, this is another thing that I learned only recently in my 17 years, right? The thoughts that arise in your mind, the impulses that arise in your mind are due to causes and conditions, yes. And you don't have to accept them as me, mine, and myself. Yes, true. However, in the past, you gave those thoughts and impulses energy, or the causes and conditions that led up to those thoughts and impulses energy that led to them arising. So in the end, it is the Buddha's way is extreme ownership. Right? There's a great book about leadership by this Navy SEAL guy, Jocko Willink, and it's called Extreme Ownership. Right? The Buddha's teaching is extreme ownership. Right? Nobody else's fault. I take ownership. Right? And so this is when you realize this. Oh, wait. Wait a second. I fed this in the past. Now that it's come back again, how about I don't feed it anymore? How about I starve it? Let me make it weaker. And so I had this vision of this thought, like a thought arises, a thought of ill will, hatred, whatever. I hate this group, whatever they are, based on religion, politics, skin color, whatever. I hate this group, right? And you feed it. And what that is like a swing. Think about a swing and like kids on a swing and they go like around like in a big circle, right? When that thought arises, you feed it, you give it energy, you give it a push, and then it comes around, and then next week, next year, whatever, it comes back again. Right? And it comes back with more energy, faster, and you give it a push, and it comes back again, and you give it a push, and it's just coming through your mind, coming through your mind, push, 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 push. But then you decide, wait a second, I don't want to feed this anymore. I don't want to give this any more energy. That doesn't mean it stops. It has lots of momentum, tons of momentum. It keeps coming back, but you didn't give it any energy. And so due to, I don't know, whatever laws of conservation momentum, but some laws due to physics, right? Because you're not pushing it, because you're not giving it energy, it's slowing down each time it's coming around, slowing down, slowing down, slowing down, slowing. And then one day it stops. And you've starved it to death. Basically, you've starved it to death. You have ended that line of thinking. Right? That is very important. That's how it's done. Right? That is how it's done. You stop feeding it. You own it. You have to own it. Because if you own it, this is why the Buddha's teaching 5 subjects of contemplation, which we're going to do for the guided meditation. The 5th one, I am the owner of my actions. This is not like, well, I'm kind of some owner of some other things, but those people cause me suffering and this and this and this and this is no, that's all BS. That's all lies. I am the owner of my actions. I am responsible for my actions. Nobody else. Right? I am responsible for my suffering. I cause myself my suffering. And nobody wants to accept it. It's like, what do you mean? People cause me suffering, this person, that person, that person. Or this is very pessimistic. That is the word of an ignorant person. You know why? Tell me in the chat. If you are the cause of your suffering, what does that mean? If you and not other people are the cause of your suffering, what does it mean? Anybody? Bingo, Mason. You can end it. That is why when you really understand the teachings, when you really see it in its totality, this is the most positive, most positive religion, most positive way of being in existence. You can stop it. You can end your suffering. It's pretty good, right? But you have to take ownership for it first. You can't lie to yourself. You can't lie anymore. You have to take extreme ownership. You have to. That's what the Buddha is telling you. Take extreme ownership. But blaming others is easier. Yes. But Kamada, they do it because it's hard. Right? But it's hard, Bhante. It's hard. They do it even though it's hard. All right, Tessa, have a good one. Thanks for coming. Dallas is like, what? But I have to do work? I'd rather just have a miracle. Yeah, well, that's human nature, isn't it? That's how we are. We should accept that. All right, friends. I think we need to do our guided meditation. It's coming to the end. I have felt very powerful Dhamma come through me tonight. Felt very good, very powerful Dhamma. I might actually clip a bunch of these sections out and make separate videos of them. But that is no excuse for not meditating. We need to meditate. So we listen to Dhamma, we study Dhamma, and then we practice Dhamma. So we have to practice. Okay, friends? Set yourself up in a comfortable and stable position. Take some time to scan through your body from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. Paying attention to any sensations that arise, any feelings of discomfort, any places where the position of your body makes your posture be off and not stable. Take some time to adjust your posture as you move along so that you can stay as stable and comfortable and as unmoving as possible when we meditate. If you have trouble coming into contact with some sensation, you can always prompt yourself by asking, what do I see? What do I feel? When you're done setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position, let the body go and take 3 deep breaths. Then let the breath go. From here on in, we don't want to try to control the breath in any way. This body's been breathing from the moment you were born and will continue to do so until the second you die. Doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is to follow the breath, to investigate it. Follow as this body breathes in. Follow as this body breathes out. As you're following your breath, your mind will become bored, will want to escape to the past or the future, across the world or the galaxy, anywhere but here with the breath. Or a distraction from the outside will arise. When this happens, you will have a period of time where you're unmindful. You don't realize you've been distracted. But slowly it will dawn on you that you've been taken away from the breath. Bring your mindfulness back in full and acknowledge that you've been taken away. Fully understand you've been taken away. Then practice letting go of the distraction. By this means we don't get angry and agitated and try to push it away, nor do we get attached to it and excited by it and keep thinking about it. We simply want to let it go, to not give it any energy, to let it be. This thought, this distraction arose on its own. And if you don't attach to it, it will go on its way. Let it be and return to the breath. So for however many times you get distracted away from the breath, acknowledge, let go, and return over and over. For the rest of this guided meditation, we'll do a guided contemplation. Continue following the breath as I explain. The Buddha tells us in one sutta that there are these 5 things that one should reflect upon often, whether one is a woman or a man, a lay person or ordained person. What 5? These 5 things are what we will contemplate. This is something that all of us, within no exception, all of us who follow the path, we should contemplate these things very often, a couple times a day, or even more. Repeat the line after me. I am subject to aging. I am not exempt from aging. Say those words. Understand them. I am subject to aging. I am not exempt from aging. Not only you age, but all beings age. All living beings, all sentient beings. But not only just beings. Even trees age, even non-living beings, even inanimate objects like the earth, stars, galaxies, the universe, all show aging, all show decaying. There is nothing exempt from entropy, from decay, from aging. No matter how much we might try to convince ourselves otherwise, we will grow old. We cannot tell our body, do not grow old. We cannot wish, may I not grow old, for that is not to be had by wishing. Repeat the line. I am subject to illness. I am not exempt from illness. No matter how hard we try, no matter what things we do, what precautions we take, we will get sick. There is no stopping sickness. There is no being that goes through life without being sick. We are not exempt from being sick. Even trees in the forest can be seen to have cancerous growths, various rots and sickness, let alone just you. You cannot escape becoming sick. Repeat the words. I am subject to death. I am not exempt from death. All beings die. All beings come to the end of life. Even the long-living devas and beings in the samsaric journey that lasts for many thousands, even millions of years of life, eventually they pass on. Not only beings, but also the planet, the sun, will eventually die. The universe will die, let alone me. There is no hope. There is no wishing. I wish that I will not die. This cannot be had by wishing. No matter how hard we stick our head in the sand like an ostrich, this does not stop death from coming. It only stops us from living. Repeat the words. I will be separated from everyone and everything I hold dear. If all beings are subject to old age, sickness, and death, how could it be otherwise that there would be no separation? This cannot be had by wishing. May my loved ones always stay with me, and I with them. May all the things I enjoy never change. This is not reality, no matter how much we wish it to be so. One day there will be separation from whatever we love, whomever we love. Repeat the words. I am the owner of my actions, responsible for my actions. Have my actions as my relative. To that I shall be the heir. Knowing that you will grow old, knowing that you will get sick, knowing that you will die, knowing that you will be separated from all beloved ones. How do you choose to live? How do you choose to act? How do you choose to spend the rest of your days in this life? The Buddha points us to remembering, reflecting, reminding that we are the owner of our actions. We cannot escape that. We cannot escape the consequences of our actions. Only we experience the consequences of our karma. The Buddha says that when one reflects upon these 5 things, and when one reflects that all beings are subject to the same 5 things, that the path is generated. When you reflect upon these realities, these utter truths of your existence, the path of Dhamma is generated. The desire, the zeal, the wish to follow the path, to live skillfully, to practice diligently is generated. So always reflect upon these 5 things. Generate your zeal, generate your path, and practice it well. Slowly start to open your eyes, come out of the meditation, the contemplation. Spend a little time to reflect on your experience during that practice. Reflect on how you're feeling and what is the state of your mind. As we come to the last couple minutes of another Dhammapalooza. Another Dhammapalooza is in the books, as they say. So friends, let's do some, what would you call it? Let's do some business before we do our final sharing of merits. So every Monday at this time, unless otherwise noted, on my website, muggaseka.org. So if you are not part of muggaseka.org, if you don't know the website and you haven't subscribed on it so that you can get notifications, then please do so. I'll put it in the chat. Anything that I'm doing will be posted on there so you'll know. So every Monday, at least for the foreseeable future, here I am with Dhammapalooza, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, USA Eastern time. Also, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern time is Morning Monastery Experience, where we do a half-hour experience of what it's like when you wake up and you do a morning session at a monastery. There's precepts, a little chanting, and some Dhamma, right? A thought of the day. So you can start your morning off, start your day off with some thoughts of Dhamma. It's a very good way to start. If you'd like to be a part of our online community that is focused both in study and in practice of our daily lives in the early texts in the suttas, Adriana will post a link to the email so that you can send an email to that email and ask to join, and we'll let you in. And I think that is it. We have Mindfulness of Death retreat, Maggaseka retreat coming up. You can go on my website to find the link to that. So, hello, Jim. Well, good to see you. So you can join me for a weekend of experiencing just like what we did today. But a whole weekend's worth, a lot more good Dhamma about mindfulness of death and life. And I think that's about that. Anything else, Adriana, you can think of, or anybody else can think of to announce to people who might not know? All right. Those of you who are new to us, welcome to the Maggaseka community. I hope you stick around and join us in future events. So let us do our sharing of merits. Dukkha patta chanit dukkha, bhaya patta chanit bhaya, sukha patta chanit sukha, hontu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata cha mehi sampadang punya sampadang, sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhiya, akasatta jabumata deva naga mahiddhika punyang tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief and may all beings find relief. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share in this dispensation of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. I missed the middle line. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. I know the Pali, but I always mess up the English. All right, friends. Until next time, Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy, practice well, and be well.